Would it sound like a fairy tale if I told you that a country, a modern country at that, once waged a war against their national bird for destroying farmland and causing distress to the farmers and posing a potential threat to the country's granary? And that the birds outsmarted the soldiers, leading to an embarrassing loss for the army, which launched the offensive with machine guns. Yes, friends, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Australia's embarrassing loss in the famously absurd Emu War of 1932. In 1932, this actually happened in Australia. The episode is now known half affectionately and half incredulously as the Great Emu War. And for all its humor, it came from a very real crisis facing struggling farmers. The story dates back to the early 1930s when Australia was still reeling from the Great Depression. Wheat prices had crashed, farming communities were desperate for stability, and Western Australia's marginal agricultural lands were proving difficult to manage. Then came a problem which no one anticipated. An emu migration from the inland desert was unprecedentedly high, and it went wild, in fact. Every year, thousands of emus move from inland deserts towards the coastal regions after breeding season. But in 1932, their numbers swelled unusually, and it crossed 20,000. They found newly cultivated farms, overflowing water troughs, and leftover grains. To the emus, this was nothing but paradise, but to the farmers, it was devastation. Fences collapsed, crops vanished overnight, and panicked farmers ultimately pressurized the government for help. By November 1932, the Australian government approved a peculiar plan to send the army behind these birds, and accordingly, Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery engaged with the emus with soldiers armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The war began. Machine guns versus emus. Officially, the mission was to assist farmers, but the press quickly dubbed it as a war. The soldiers soon discovered that emus were nothing like the enemies they trained for. Now, what were these birds, emus? What are these birds? They are big and very strong flightless birds native to Australia and similar to the ostriches of Africa. Though these birds are a little smaller and lighter than the ostriches, they grow up to a height of 1.9 meters and are astonishingly fast, capable of a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. More importantly, they travel in small scattered groups, making them nearly impossible to target together. Every attempt made by the army ended in chaos. When soldiers set up ambushes, the emus simply scattered. When a machine gun jammed, the birds sprinted away unscathed. When troops mounted a truck to chase them, the terrain was so bumpy they couldn't aim. Major Meredith later joked that if the Australian Army ever needed mobile guerrilla fighters, emus would be excellent recruits. By December, after expending thousands of rounds and hitting only a fraction of the birds, the government admitted defeat and the war was quietly called off. Newspapers around the world mocked the event. Soldiers with machine guns losing to birds, they cried, and the rebuked. Sounded like a slapstick film. But behind the humor was an ecological lesson, a very vital lesson. The war failed because it treated wildlife as an enemy rather than a system. Eventually, Australia switched to more workable solutions like improved fencing and land management strategies. But today, the Emu War survives as a quirky footnote in global history, a moment when nature and the wild outsmarted humans with nothing more than speed, instinct, and impeccable timing. Australia may have lost a war to the birds, but it gained a huge experience that coexistence beats conflict, especially when the opponent is simply living in its own habitat. And what lesson did history teach us? The lesson is a very important lesson. Never underestimate a bird that can outrun you. It was a very interesting historical incident, which I thought you would find it interesting too. Thank you for being with me throughout the talk. If you have liked it, please do like and share and subscribe to my channel for more interesting contents. Thank you and God bless you.